I want you to just visualize the math for a second. You have a job, a standard architectural rendering job, and you are staring at 75 hours of waiting. 75 hours of just fans spinning, your office getting hot.
Yeah.
Then you look at this new way, and it's 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
You are taking a workflow that needs 850 individual expensive images, and you are replacing it with just 2.
It sounds, I mean, honestly, it sounds like snake oil.
It does.
It sounds like one of those late night ads promising you can, learn Spanish in your sleep. But we're not talking about a scam today. We are looking at a fundamental shift in the physics of how architecture gets visualized.
Right.
We're talking about the $500 mistake you might be making every single time you hit that render button.
It is a really startling claim, but the numbers, they seem to back it up. Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, and today we are unpacking a fascinating and frankly a kind of aggressive piece by Max Ann. It's titled The $500 Mistake: Why You Should Stop Sending Your ArchViz to a Render Farm. We're going to get into the nuts and bolts of Kling AI 2.6, this whole concept of the first and last frame workflow, and how some specific prompts, what Ann calls power prompts, are completely rewriting the rules.
And look, usually when we talk design tech, it's about the art, right? The aesthetics. But today we really need to talk about the financial reality. Because if you're still doing things the old way, the way we've done them for 20 years, Ann suggests you might be leaving about $100,000 a year on the table.
That number just, it jumped out at me immediately. That's a salary.
It's a whole employee.
It's a whole person. But before we get to the cash, let's start with the pain. Ann calls it the progress bar nightmare.
Oh, I felt that in my soul. If you work in architectural visualization or really any high-end 3D work, you know this pain viscerally. It's the time debt.
Let's unpack that term, time debt. Because for someone who just sees the final pretty building, the process is invisible. What are we actually paying with here?
It's the part of the job the client never, ever sees. Traditionally, if you want just a standard 10-second animation, nothing fancy, just a simple walkthrough, at 30 frames per second, you need 300 individual images.
300.
And in high-end ArchViz, we're not talking about, like, video game graphics. We're talking about simulating light bouncing off velvet, refraction through glass.
The details.
All the tiny details. One single frame can take 15 minutes to render on a powerful machine.
So if I'm doing the math on that, 300 frames times 15 minutes, that's not a lunch break.
No. You're looking at anywhere from 23 to 75 hours. Just work.
That's 3 days.
Yeah.
Just babysitting a computer.
That describes it perfectly. He says you stop being a designer and you start being a highly paid computer technician waiting for a loading screen.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker, the thing that drives professionals crazy. What happens if the client calls you on hour 60 and says, hey, can we move that chair 3 inches to the left?
Oh, no, you have to start over.
You start the 75-hour clock all over again.
And that's where the money burns.
Yeah.
Because it's not just your time, you're paying for the computing power. This is the part I think people outside the industry just don't get. You don't just have the computer power for this, you usually have to rent it.
Right. From a render farm, these are massive data centers, huge racks of servers that you rent to do all the number crunching for you. And they charge per core hour.
Can you define that for the listener who hasn't seen an invoice for one of these?
Sure. A core hour is basically the cost to use one processor core for 1 hour. It's usually between, say, 2 and 10 cents, which sounds cheap, right? Just pennies. But for a complex scene with 850 frames, you're looking at a bill of over $500.
For one version.
For one version. If you do 3 revisions for the client, that's $1,500. Just gone.
It is just wild that this has been accepted as the cost of doing business. It raises a really big question for me. I mean, architects, designers, they're obsessed with efficiency. Why have smart professionals accepted this financial bleed as just normal for so long?
It really just comes down to necessity. It was the only way to get that quality until now. Normal didn't mean good. It just meant it was possible. If you wanted photorealism, you had to pay the tax.
But that definition of possible has just shifted. Let's talk about the tool that changes the physics of this, Kling 2.6.
Released late 2025. This is the big disruptive element here.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate a little. We've seen AI video before. We've all seen the memes.
Oh, yeah.
The walls are breathing. The furniture turns into a dog. The camera feels like it's floating in soup. It's hallucinogenic. Why is this any different?
So you're describing the single image problem.
Yeah.
In the older AI models, you give it a picture of a living room and say, animate this. The AI has to guess what the rest of the room looks like. It has to guess what's behind the sofa.
And it's a terrible guesser.
A terrible guesser, especially when it comes to strict geometry. It improvises.
Yeah, and architects, they hate improvisation.
They hate it. They want stability.
Ooh.
If a column moves, the whole building falls down. So Kling 2.6 introduces this first and last frame control. And this is the genius part. You don't just give it the start. You go back to your 3D software blender, 3's Max, whatever, and you render frame 1. And then you render frame 300.
The destination.
Exactly. You give the AI the beginning and the end. Both are perfect, geometrically accurate renders from your software. And then you tell the AI, find the path.
So it's not creating the room from scratch.
No.
It's just connecting the dots.
Precisely. It's interpolation. It calculates the movement between two locked points. It literally can't make the wall warp because the wall is locked in place at the finish line. It has no choice but to stay straight.
That is astounding. It's elegantly simple.
It really is.
Yeah.
And Kling 2.6 also added native audio, so it'll generate sound effects like ambient noise, footsteps, in that same pass. But the visual stability is the headline. You are replacing 850 frames of heavy rendering with just 2.
2 frames.
That is a 99% reduction in render time.
Whoa! That's almost hard to wrap your head around. You're basically building a bridge, and you only have to build the 2 pillars on the banks, and the AI just manifests the bridge in between.
That is a great analogy. And because you built the pillars, you know the bridge lands exactly where it's supposed to.
So just to be crystal clear, the AI isn't hallucinating the building. It's strictly filling in the gap.
Exactly. It's constrained logic. It forces stability by locking that destination.
Okay, so that's the theory. But I want to know how a professional actually does this, because I assume you can't just type, make it cool, and get a client-ready video. There has to be some craft involved.
Oh, absolutely. Amy is very clear about this. You can't just vibe your way through it. You need a workflow.
So walk us through it. Phase 1.
Phase 1 is the 3D prep. You're still a designer. You set up your camera path in your software. But, and this is a massive constraint, the movement has to be intentional.
Define intentional for me.
No roller coasters, no crazy acrobatics, slow pushes, smooth pans.
Why? Why can't I do a 360 spin?
Because of object permanence. If the camera spins too fast, the AI loses track of what the objects are supposed to look like. It just gets confused.
Right.
So you keep it cinematic. You export frame 1 and frame 300. Standard HD resolution is fine.
Okay. And phase 2?
Phase 2 is the setup inside Kling. You select image to video, and you enable that first and last frame toggle. And suggests starting with 5-second clips just to get the hang of it. Walk before you run.
Makes sense. Now, phase 3. This is the part that really interested me, the language we use, the power prompt.
Yes. This is where you make or break the entire shot.
And breaks it down into a formula. What is it?
It's a 4-part structure. You need movement, scene description, lighting, and technical rules.
Okay, give me an example of how a novice would screw this up versus how a pro does it.
Okay. A bad prompt, a novice prompt is just camera moves through room.
Vague. Very vague.
Very. The AI will do whatever it wants. Here's the expert version, and it uses slow forward tracking shot through a modern minimalist living room, natural daylight streaming through windows, stable geometry, no morphing, cinematic photography.
Stable geometry, no morphing. So you're explicitly telling it what not to do.
That's the technical rules part of the formula. It's the safety rail.
It's so interesting that we have to speak to the machine in its own language of constraints. We have to tell it, hey, don't hallucinate.
We do. We have to remind it of the laws of physics.
So looking at that whole formula, what is the one specific variable in there that prevents all the weirdness?
It's definitely that technical rules section, explicitly commanding stable geometry and no morphing.
Okay, we're back. We have the tool, we have the prompt. Now let's talk about selling this. Because technology is cool, but applications are what get invoices paid. And outlines a few of these magic applications.
And these are honestly brilliant because they turn what could be a tech limitation into a feature.
The first one he calls magic staging.
This is huge for renovation concepts. You render an empty room as frame 1, and then the fully furnished room as the last frame.
And the AI just fills in the middle.
Yes, but with nuance. The prompt is something like, furniture and decorations should appear piece by piece, popping up one by one.
So it actually creates a time-lapse effect.
Exactly. A clean, smooth transition of a room furnishing itself. That used to take days of manual keyframing.
Wow.
Now, 3 minutes.
That is a killer marketing asset. I can see that on Instagram immediately.
It is. Another one is atmospheric lighting shifts.
Oh, I like this. Day to night.
Day to night. Frame 1 is bright daylight. The last frame is a moody evening with warm lamps. The prompt describes golden afternoon sunbeams crawling across the floor.
Crawling across the floor, that's poetic.
It is, and the AI understands that flow.
Yeah.
It animates the shadows lengthening, the lights flickering on. It's very emotional.
And emotion sells architecture.
Always.
Now, I have to ask about the elephant in the room, people. 3D people usually look like zombies. They slide across the floor, their eyes are dead. Does Kling fix the zombie problem?
It helps, and calls this application humanity.
How does it work?
You don't use motion capture data, which is expensive and really hard to clean up. You just set frame A, person is at the door. Frame B, person is sitting on the sofa.
And the AI figures out how they walked there.
It fills in the natural movement, walking, sitting, shifting their weight. No rigging required at all. He gives an example of a woman walking to a sofa with a cup of tea. The AI handles the subtle physics of holding the cup, the fabric of her shirt moving.
But be honest, is it perfect? Or does she suddenly grow a third arm halfway there?
It's not perfect. There's a catch. You have to keep the people secondary. If you make them the main focus, if you zoom right in on their face, the flaws show up. The uncanny valley is still there.
Okay.
But it's background life. It's incredible.
And then there's this falling furniture concept.
Yeah, physics and stop motion. This is purely for viral reels. You prompt for a stop motion animation style.
Yeah.
Furniture slides and skids into place. It's playful. It's not physically perfect, but it absolutely grabs attention on Instagram.
It seems like the whole paradigm is shifting from perfect simulation to mood and flow.
That's a great distinction, yeah.
So does this work for really complex interactions, or is it just for mood setting?
It's mostly mood and flow. You have to keep people secondary to the architecture, at least for now.
Okay, so it's time for a reality check. We're painting a very rosy picture here, 5 minutes, $500 saved. But is the render farm actually dead?
Not entirely. And On is honest about this. He puts the tech at about 80% ready.
What's in that missing 20%?
Complex camera moves like spirals or really intricate loops or extreme close-ups on textures. If you need to show the specific weave of a fabric for a manufacturer, or if you need absolute dimensional accuracy for a legal submission.
You can't have the wall wobble even a single millimeter.
Right. For regulatory work or when you're in court proving a sightline, you stick to the traditional render farm. You need the physics engine, not the AI, I guess.
But for everything else, concepts, marketing, social media, client buy-in.
It's a no-brainer. And this is where we get back to the money math.
Let's break it down per project.
Okay, a traditional 10-second walkthrough costs about $2,500. That's the render farm fees, plus about 20 hours of your labor at your billing rate.
Expensive.
The AI-powered version, about $250, $10 in AI credits, and maybe 2.5 hours of labor.
So you're saving $2,250 per project.
Exactly. If you do 4 projects a month, you are effectively finding $100,000 a year in overhead.
That is life-changing money for a small studio. That's the difference between profitability and bankruptcy.
It really is. It's not just saving money, it's reclaiming your profit margin.
I have to admit, though, listening to all this, there is something a little scary about it. I still wrestle with prompt drift myself, or just the fear of the black box. When you render manually, you control every photon. You know exactly why a shadow falls where it does. When you write a prompt, you're trusting an algorithm. It feels like giving up the steering wheel.
It's a loss of control, sure. But it's a gain in leverage. You're saying, I don't need to control the photon, I just need the result.
So based on those numbers, is the render farm completely obsolete?
Not entirely. It's obsolete for concepts,
Yeah.
but it's still essential for that legal precision. It's a hybrid world now.
Got it. Okay, now for the listeners who are thinking, okay, I'm in, but I want to do this at a high level, and outline some advanced techniques to really polish this stuff.
He does. The first one is for length. If you try to generate, say, a 20-second clip in one go, the AI will drift. It gets amnesia.
It loses the plot.
Right. So you use multi-segment animations. You generate a 5-second clip, clip A, and you take the very last frame of clip A, and you make that the start frame of clip B.
So you're stitching them together like a relay race.
Exactly. It prevents the drifting because you keep re-anchoring the reality every 5 seconds.
That's really smart.
Then there's the hybrid workflow.
Yeah.
This is for when the AI gets you 90% there, but there's a little glitch in the corner. Maybe a plant looks weird.
Yeah.
You can export the frames, fix them in Photoshop, manually clean it up, and then feed them back in.
So you're actually collaborating with the AI. You fix its mistakes.
Precisely. And finally, style consistency. If you're doing a whole house, you don't want the kitchen to look like a moody film noir and the bedroom to look like a Pixar cartoon.
That would be a little jarring.
So you use style anchors. These are phrases you repeat in every single prompt for that project.
Like what?
Architectural Digest photography style. Or Scandinavian minimalist aesthetic.
You train the AI on the vibe.
You do. And the last technical tip is upscaling. Kling outputs at 1080p. Most clients want 4K, so you run it through a tool like Topaz Video AI to upscale and sharpen it. It bridges that last gap to professional delivery.
So if I'm understanding this right, the key to not letting the style drift is those style anchors repeating the exact same aesthetic keywords every single time.
Yes. Consistency in your language equals consistency in the visuals.
This has been really eye-opening. We are definitely looking at a hybrid future.
We are. We look back at early CGI in movies, think the 90s, and it looks charming but primitive.
The Scorpion King comes to mind.
Exactly. We're the Scorpion King era of AI video right now. It's impressive, but it's going to get so much better.
But the point On makes is so crucial. You can't wait for it to be perfect.
No, because by the time it's perfect, everyone will use it. The competitive advantage belongs to the people who master it now, while it's still a little bit messy.
The people who figure out how to reclaim that $100,000 a year.
Exactly. Stop asking, can this replace rendering? And start asking, how can I use this to do things I couldn't do before?
That's the real takeaway. Don't let the tool replace you. Let it multiply you.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And here's a thought to leave you with. If the visualization becomes this fast and this cheap, does the design process itself change? If you can see the finished building in 5 minutes instead of 3 days, do you take more risks? Do you iterate more? Or do we just end up churning out more generic buildings, but faster?
That is the really exciting and kind of terrifying question, isn't it?
Something to mull over. Thanks for diving in with us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you on the next one.